Welcome, you're watching Vox News, your daily evening news with Rita Kamkumo. Our headlines today: the French government passes a bill ratifying the end of the West African currency CFA franc, replaced by the echo. President Macky Sall calls for greater solidarity on the issue of African commercial debts and suggests a new mechanism. The Madagascar President agrees to reveal the COVID organics formula and their conditions to the World Health Organization. Our top story today: the French government adopted on Wednesday a bill ratifying the end of the West Africa CFA franc following a highly criticized reform agreement announced on December 2019 by President Emmanuel Macron and Ivorian President Alassane Ouattara. The draft legislation brings the ratification in French law of the substitution of CFA franc, often denounced as a colonialist relic, into a new francophone currency called ECO. The bill abolishes the mechanism of the operations account, marking the end of the mandatory centralization of foreign exchange reserves in France, which will quit the currency's managerial institutions. However, and this is where the problem lies, the maintenance of the fixed parity with the euro remains, which raises a cautious optimism, if not skepticism, about the compatibility of the ECO with the economic emergence of French-speaking Africa. In Senegal, President Macky Sall pleaded on Tuesday for greater solidarity on the issue of African commercial debts, referring to Eurobonds, and suggested an innovative mechanism during a virtual conference organized by the New York Forum Institute. The Senegalese president revealed that some African states are thinking about setting up a new mechanism that could benefit from the support and guarantee of partner countries, such as the European Union or the International Monetary Fund. As part of this hypothetical new vehicle, some of the G20 countries could use special drawing rights to try to provide guarantees. This special vehicle, where African debts will be placed, would allow lessors to buy back the African commercial debts from this vehicle guaranteed by the states and their partners. As a result, African countries will benefit from longer maturities, and the commercial debts could be paid at much lower rates, contrary to the current Eurobond rates. President Macky Sall's suggestion is now left to the discretion of other African leaders. On the health front, after numerous warnings against the use of Madagascar's COVID organics, the World Health Organization finally changed its mind. According to Madagascar President André Zoel, who spoke with the Director General of the United Nations Agency, Dr. Tedros Ghebreyesus, on Wednesday, the organization is interested in knowing the formula behind the herbal tea. In fact, after praising Madagascar for the discovery of the alleged anti-coronavirus beverage, President Rajoel agreed to make a deal and to reveal the composition of the beverage to the global organization. In return, the organization will sign a confidentiality clause on the formulation of COVID organics and will support the clinical observations process in Africa. In Niger, the government announced on Wednesday state aid to grant credits to private companies affected by the coronavirus pandemic. Finance Minister Mamadou Diop, heads of local banks and financial institutions, signed a framework agreement in Niamey on Tuesday to set up a bank credit line of 150 billion CFA francs or $251.2 million to support companies in need. Two envelopes will be set up, one for large companies amounting to 100 billion CFA francs or $167.4 million, and the other one for small and medium-sized enterprises in the amount of 50 billion CFA francs or $83.7 million. In April, the government had warned that the country's 2020 growth rate was likely to fall due to the coronavirus pandemic and had announced accompanying measures for businesses, including tax exemptions. In Senegal, the government approved on Wednesday the use of electronic surveillance as a possible substitute for detention to decongest prisons. The Council of Ministers approved an amendment to the existing legislation to allow electronic supervision as a means of adjusting sentences and to introduce house arrest with electronic surveillance as an alternative to pretrial detention. Even before the coronavirus pandemic, Senegal had mentioned the introduction of the electronic bracelet in December 2018 in specific cases, including pre-trial detention. Minister of Justice Malick Sall had also indicated in August 2019 that his services were working on the introduction of the bracelet to ease prisons. In sub-Saharan Africa, the fight against the coronavirus pandemic also implies fighting stigma around the disease. That is why a Cameroonian politician who recovered from COVID-19 decided to break his silence to raise awareness.
Doctors and nurses were primarily concerned with protecting themselves, so they didn't get very close to the patients. They treated me, gave me an injection and so on, but they really were worried. It was close to the start. COVID-19 was killing people all over the world, so it was understandable that they should be afraid as soon as they were presented with someone with a slight cough, and that was a problem.
Mr. Anisset believes images from the Western world play a part in the fear surrounding the disease and the resulting stigma.
People are scared. People didn't think COVID-19 could touch them. In fact, what frightens people is the images from the West where they line up corpses. Figures like 8,000 dead. It's television that has created this panic among Africans. It was me who took this initiative precisely to counter this panic, this stigmatization of COVID-19, and I think it may have had an impact, because people always imagine the transmission as something very distant. So the fact that someone who had COVID-19 can talk about it without painting an entirely negative picture has certainly had an impact on this panic and stigmatization.
Experts acknowledge the stigmatization coronavirus patients often endure only makes matters worse.
Une personne qui serait reconnue.
A person who is recognized as a coronavirus positive, that person, in spite of themselves, becomes a physical vector of a threat and a danger to those who may be in their environment. So are people affected by the coronavirus stigmatized? The answer is yes. The way in which the teams arrive in the homes is a way that adds to the personal drama that people are experiencing and creates, by attracting the attention of those around them, a further dramatization of the problem. And it confirms or reinforces in the thoughts and minds of those around them the dangerousness of the coronavirus, which before was far away and almost theoretical. But that danger now appears on their doorstep.
Dangerosité non seulement du corona, qui est un peu loin et virtuel, mais la dangerosité maintenant qui est au pas de leur porte.
Very few African countries have engaged in the fight against the stigmatization of COVID-19 victims. Nigeria recently began broadcasting prevention spots on television, highlighting that the disease is not a death sentence. On the political front in Burundi, following the first round of voting in the presidential election which took place on Wednesday, the main opposition party, the National Congress for Liberty, led by Agathon Rwasa, denounced pressure against voters as well as fraud, in particular in the provinces of Rumonge and Bujumbura Rural, located in the southwest and the west of the country respectively. According to independent journalists present on the scene and witnesses, ballot boxes were stuffed and people who could not isolate themselves to vote were pressured to vote for the ruling party, the National Council for the Defense of Democracy, represented by candidate Evariste Ndayishimiye. The results of the presidential election should be available early next week. In Zambia, the United Nations World Food Programme announced on Wednesday that more than 1 million people are at risk of starvation due to floods in the north and eastern parts of the country. The provinces of Luapula and the Orient have experienced heavy rainfall in recent weeks after the traditional rainy season that occurs from November to April. On the judicial front, Rwandan genocide suspected financier Félicien Kabuga, arrested last week in France after 25 years on the run, appeared in court on Wednesday. Mr. Kabuga, who is prosecuted by international justice for genocide, incitement to genocide, and conspiracy to commit genocide, is expected to be tried in The Hague in the Netherlands. But his lawyers says his client wants to be tried in France, arguing medical reasons.
The public prosecutor's office now wants to maneuver in order to send him to The Hague, knowing that he cannot go to Arusha. That is not what is planned, so we hope, including for his health, including the conditions in which he will be judged, that he will be judged in France. Our client is not doing well. He has had operations even recently. This makes it difficult for him to understand what he is accused of, and for this reason, we will ask for an expert opinion as soon as possible. He is being summoned urgently. In fact, to get rid of him, the French state does not want to keep him on its territory and does not want to judge him here. This is not its wish, and it is inadmissible to bring proceedings at such short notice noticing when justice has been waiting for 25 years, it will wait another 10 days or so before sending him off to some place.
The survivors of the 1994 Rwandan genocide who applauded Mr. Kabuga's arrest said they hope that he will be tried in Rwanda, where they say he committed the crimes. Finally, on the football scene, the 2019-2020 season is officially over in South Sudan due to the coronavirus pandemic. The South Sudan Football Association voted the final cancellation of the season on Wednesday. As a result, the title will not be awarded to any formation, and only Al Habita FC, winner of the National Cup, will defend the colors of the country in the African Confederation Cup next season. That's it for today. Thank you for watching Vox News.